All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, we want to send all of you our thanks for your tremendous support. We definitely appreciate it. And as we always say, people are slowly finding out about who we are. They enjoy our content and they respect the passion with which we speak. Because again, we do this because we enjoy it, and all we are doing is we are sharing our passions with you all as we slowly build our listening army to take over the world. Dallas Cowboys Week 2 Hard Knocks edition of 2021. The beginning of the show, it opens up with Mike Tomlin, again, giving a version of a pep talk to the team about taking practice seriously, leaving foolishness behind. As we exit the intro credits, shows a team doing yoga. I was wondering the same thing. What in the world is this yoga stuff about? But I'm trying to be optimistic about the reasons why they're doing yoga, maybe to feel loose. Now, I, for one, am not a yoga practitioner. I'm sure some of you listening may be and can probably tell us the reasons why they were practicing yoga. Considering some of the efforts that I saw on defense, especially last season, one can make an argument that yoga is needed, but I felt it was a little bit weird of them doing yoga. I guess it was to calm the mind and calm the spirit and calm the soul after a hard day of practice or before a hard day of practice, or just kind of let loose mentally before they played competitive football. So yoga to open up week 2 of Hard Knocks edition with the Dallas Cowboys. Then we go into running back Zeke Elliott, who's complaining about baby powder in his backside, considering we're coming off a career worst year. But baby powder on the backside clearly was important. Hey, it is what it is. Whatever gets the job done. Then next we move to quarterback Ben DiNucci. As we stated last week, Ben DiNucci playing around doing film study, not playing well or throwing a game-losing interception in a scrimmage or a team-on-team or 11-on-11 scrimmage. The same Ben DiNucci who really didn't play well in the Hall of Fame game is also having problems in training camp. And I said it last week, this guy is not really that good. But we're going to leave it alone here as he studies films with quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier. And again, I'm not the biggest Ben DiNucci fan. When he had his lone start last year, and as we talked about on that particular game, there was nothing I saw that would say this guy has any type of potential. I'm not convinced. Clearly, he was drafted by Mike McCarthy. I don't know what Mike McCarthy sees in this guy. We just don't see it. Then the team goes into cadence reps, where they were practicing cadence reps about essentially being in sync and being one as a team. So I didn't have a problem with that. Hey, whatever works. Then we get to an exciting chess match between the aforementioned Ben DiNucci and rookie linebacker Micah Parsons. A very competitive chess game that was won by Ben DiNucci. Apparently, both gentlemen are from the state of Pennsylvania. One from the west side of Pennsylvania, the other one from the east side of Pennsylvania. So a very thrilling chess match between a rookie sensation linebacker and the third-string quarterback. Next, we go to DeMarcus Tank Lawrence, the $100 million defensive end with his beautiful family. And I must say, the man does have a very beautiful family. Talking about his issues, having back surgery. I believe that back surgery was delayed, so he has been left out of preseason, but showing his demeanor as a leader, showing his leadership qualities and trying to motivate the younger players, getting them where they need to be, clearly being a vocal leader. The problem is I didn't see that production on the field last year, $100 million notwithstanding. I'm glad he got his money. We were, especially in 2017 and 2018, we were the biggest advocates of him getting his money. However, the production on the field, especially last season, didn't see anything that justified that contract. So again, we're hoping for at least a 10 to 15 sack season out of DeMarcus Lawrence. He needs to easily be top 10 in sacks for the season for this Cowboys defense that's going to have a bunch of young players playing on it. He's going to have to be that true leader on the field, not just in practice, not just in warm-ups, but for this defense to be where it needs to be, where I can really see a lot of young players playing significant time. And of course, with young players, there's going to be growing pains, and this is the time where a person like a DeMarcus Lawrence needs to step up and be the leader on the field that the team needs him to be. Then we get to a lighthearted part of the episode, where it talks about Aiden Durd, the Cowboys defensive line coach with a British accent, who was part of the international player program, who once played in NFL Europe. And it kind of talks about and he kind of went into a little bit of a biography about him playing linebacker, being an outside linebackers coach and a quality control coach, and now becoming the defensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. The team did, especially the defensive line, had a good time doing an impersonation of him. Now, the issue that I have with it is the same defensive line that had gaping holes through it last year, they should be the last group of people in America that should be cracking jokes. Everything with them needs to be serious. Everything with them needs to be watching film. They need to stop the damn impressions and start playing ball. Because again, that defense that I saw last year was heavens awful. And I don't need any more jokes out of that defense. I don't need any more playtime out of that defense. I just mentioned they have a $100 million defensive end, another starting defensive end who, depending on which week it is, he's suspended for this game and that game, and his availability is not an absolute certainty. I have two linebackers who've been average at best. So in a back end that's just been atrocious, minus one, Trayvon Diggs, who, by the way, was also hurt last year. So again, I'm looking at a defensive line who has no room to be cracking jokes. That team needs to be from practice to the weight room to sleep, rinse, repeat, and do it again. We don't need any cracking jokes, no impressions of a guy's British accent, no coach repeat the word massage. They don't have time for that crap. That defense, especially that defensive line, who was just awful last year, needs to be live, eat, and sleep, train, rinse, and repeat, and do it again. It's that simple. Then he goes to the joint practice with the LA Rams, where free agent defensive player Terrell Basham rolls his ankle. It looks like on a kickoff or punt block. So rolls his ankle, he's out. Then it goes into the fight that has been circulating on social media between Connor Williams and Aaron Donald. And again, folks, if you don't know how I feel about Aaron Donald, I think this man is one of the best football players in the league, the best defensive player in the league. And for the short time that he's been in the league, he is one of my favorite players of all time, as we've already talked about him as part of our greatest defense of all time, based on players that we grew up watching. This guy is a truth. There was one play I saw where Aaron Donald beat Connor McGovern on a simple inside move. It wasn't really anything spectacular, but he smoked him so bad. I was like, I hope the coaches took note of that particular play. Then you see a scuffle with him and Connor Williams. You can look at it as a good thing for Connor Williams standing up to Aaron Donald, not backing down from Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald is an absolute beast. And even as a Cowboys fan, he is one of my favorite players. So good to see a Connor Williams mixing it up. You saw in the joint practices, the players become frustrated. They start tussling. There seems to be fights every play. That's just par for the course in NFL training camp. Then he talked about Cowboys defensive end Azure Camaro, who spent last year on the practice squad, coming from the Ivory Coast, seeking refuge in the country of Guinea, which is all in West Africa, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, all those countries together. And of course, a lot of African countries have had bloody civil conflicts or bloody civil wars, and of course, it has affected parents as well as their children. I would even throw in the Sudan, which is not necessarily in West Africa. So it talks about his journey going to Kansas and becoming an undrafted free agent, making the Cowboys roster as a practice player, not having the ideal size of a defensive end or a prototypical NFL defensive end at about 230, 240 pounds. And I would say 240 pounds is a little bit too light. So it shows a little bit of his growing pains in practice, but he clearly does have raw talent. He was excited for the preseason game that was in Arizona that was actually played last Friday. So he definitely wanted to make an impression. It was the first time that his mom and his family saw him play. So it definitely was a heartwarming story. The next story that we go into is Dak Prescott's injury. Again, this was something that's been discussed ad nauseum on the mainstream media talk show, as well as all over Twitter and on social media. It's been talked about how Dak has this really strange injury in a lat muscle. The team has consulted the training staff of the baseball team, the Texas Rangers, to get their opinion on how they should treat the injury. And for those of you who don't know, the Texas Rangers Stadium is right next door to AT&T Stadium, the home of the Cowboys, and this is actually being there. And I've actually parked near the baseball stadium and have walked over to attend the Cowboys game. So just kind of an interesting note on that. So they showed how Dak is progressing. He's starting to throw light again. Next, we go into CeeDee Lamb, #1 draft pick, wide receiver last year, and how he has made improvements. He has improved leap and bounds, rather, in his second camp. I mean, this kid is making acrobatic catches. He's running go routes. I'm talking about just blowing past Trayvon Diggs. I mean, making one-handed catches. I mean, he makes these catches where he contorts his body. So the kid clearly has talent. And I think I'm glad, for one, that he's taking advantage of this opportunity because Amari Cooper has been sidelined. I believe he just got activated to practice. So CeeDee Lamb, and that's what you do, guys. You take advantage of the opportunities. Where if Amari Cooper is a #1 receiver, CeeDee, you do what you do to make yourself known. And of course, a lot of fantasy experts, a lot of quote experts are expecting CeeDee to have a big year. Then you talk about how Michael Irvin, the previous number 88, I even noticed how CeeDee has made tremendous improvements, discussing with some type of Zoom call with Jerry Jones. And of course, even CeeDee Lamb respects the lineage of the number 88 from recently inducted Hall of Famer Drew Pearson to another Hall of Famer Michael Irvin to Des Bryant, the former number 88, and now pass on to him. So he understands the importance and the significance of wearing the number 88 as a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Then we go into the Arizona Cardinals preseason game, how the defense looks markedly better. You have guys like Bradley Anae and Dorrance Armstrong getting pressure on the quarterback. Again, Ben DiNucci really didn't look the greatest in the world. He did lead a touchdown drive as the Cowboys was trying to win the preseason game. They were up 16-13. It was a 4th and 12. The previously mentioned Azure Camaro makes a sack fumble that's recovered by the Cowboys that really should have won the game for them, but it was a false start on the Arizona Cardinals. They kicked the field goal, they tied the game, and they kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime. And of course, I watched that game, and Ben DiNucci had a chance to get the ball, did nothing with it, and the Cowboys lost that game. But it was a very heartwarming moment that for Azul Camara's family was there in the stands. His mom, his 2 younger sisters, and of course they're teasing his mother about smiling. You could tell this woman was just beaming with pride of her son, considering everything that they have been through with the Civil War and the sacrifices that she made for him. So it's a very heartwarming story. Then you see him coming out of the locker room to greet his family, and they were literally like the last people next to the cleaning people inside the arena, and he hugged his family. So it's definitely a nice positive way to end the show. And to really end the show, as they were getting ready to roll the credits, you see starting right tackle Lyle Collins is kind of ribbing Dak Prescott about being a Mississippi State Bulldog. For those of you who don't know, Lyle Collins was at LSU, and of course Mississippi State, LSU, that's the SEC, and you had Mississippi State when Dak was a quarterback of the team, led them at one point to a #1 ranking in the country. So this is really a shocker at a time where at that time the 2 best teams was Bama followed by LSU. So think of the pros that Bama and LSU have in the league. So it's really remarkable for Dak to lead a Mississippi State to a #1 ranking in, quote, the toughest conference. So definitely a solid episode. The whole yoga thing, I really didn't particularly care for it. Watching Micah Parsons again, I don't want to brag too much on this kid, but this kid is a truth. He tends to make plays, so I like what I'm seeing out of this kid. Again, the defensive line cracking jokes and having fun and singling and giggling. they're the last group that needs to be making any jokes. They need to be taking this stuff seriously. They need to be getting up and hitting the weight room before practice, after practice, doing their sprints, eating protein, fish, whatever it is they got to eat to get better, because, again, they were awful last year, and it's looking like with the injury to starting defensive tackle Neville Gallimore, it looks like rookie defensive tackle Quinn Bohanna is probably going to get a lot of playing time, and I kind of like what I see out of him. So, again, there's going to be a lot of young players stepping up. Again, the Micah Parsons, throwing the Jabril Cox, who actually played well in the preseason game. So a lot of rookies are going to be expected to make heavy contributions. I don't need any joking. We don't need any playing around. I need players with their heads right, ready to play, especially that you're going to open up week 1 against the defending Super Bowl champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this is the second week of the Dallas Cowboys Hard Knocks edition of 2021. This is Chin Check Radio. Until the next time.